What's up, folks? This is Brad Ree here, and I am giving my final thoughts for Sonic Generations for the Xbox 360. While this isn't the greatest game, well, the greatest Sonic game I've ever played to this day, it does the Sonic series a bit more justice than my experience with Sonic Colors, but it's still lacking a lot of things that I generally like to see from a Sonic game. Well, let's talk about the good stuff first. The first thing I like to note is how great the graphics are. The graphics are pretty spot on to the fact that I can play this game on an SD TV and not have any problems with it whatsoever. In fact, I almost have trouble telling the difference between SD and HD at times because the quality is actually that great. Usually when I'm playing an HD game on an SD screen, the text is usually crunched up together or pixelated to the fact that you're pretty much forced to play on an HD screen. While there is a clear difference between SD and HD when you actually look at the two, it's very nice to see that this game looks very clear and there's nothing blurry or pixelated while playing the game on an SD screen. I also like the option that you have the ability to play on a 3D TV as well, even though I don't know anyone that actually owns a 3D TV. It is a nice option for Sega or Sonic Team to actually add to the game. Another good feature I like to note is the music. As always, when it comes to Sonic games, we tend to note the music is always spot on, and it just always works for each and every Sonic game, no matter how good or, say, bad the Sonic game is. But this game actually went the extra mile to give us sort of custom soundtracks by allowing us to unlock various songs throughout the game and have those play over various stages instead of the normal same old couple of songs that we always hear. But in terms of my favorite song out of the entire soundtrack, I would have to say it's Chemical Plant Modern Remix is my favorite. The other thing I like to make note of is that some of the songs that you unlock, even though they're really old songs from older games, some of them actually have been remixed to where they actually sound, or remastered, to where they sound actually pretty modern and they belong on a not too old game. The gameplay, however, it's a hit and miss. It's really a 50-50. While the game does run smoothly, and it is by no means unplayable, I do have problems. The first being, well, this one being a minor one, is me coming from Sonic Unleashed, coming towards this game, actually caused quite a bit of a problem for a couple of hours. Generally on terms of controls. As Sonic Unleashed used to have the homing attack and the boost on the same button, mapped to the same button, generally to teach you that you don't need to start spamming the button like crazy and be patient, and as opposed to just mashing the button. This game, however, changes the homing attack back to the same button as your jump, and so you don't really have to worry about accidentally doing a homing attack or accidentally doing a boost, as a couple of people have complained about before. This actually threw me off for quite a bit. For about 3 hours in the game because I had to adjust, and the fact that I can't edit the controls really disappointed me to an extent because I had to adjust because I had to take that time to adjust from one game to the next. Probably the biggest gripe I have with the game, well really the two biggest gripes I have with the game, is the game's lack of difficulty and the lack of replay value it has. And starting with the first one, the lack of difficulty. The game, although most Sonic games are generally easy from start to finish, as some people would say, this game really crosses the line between easy and too easy. For one, it's almost impossible to get any rank lower than an A or B rank, because all you have to do is pretty much get to the end of the stage and not die. Even the time limits have been pretty much they give you so much leniency on the time limits to get to the end of the stage, so you can acquire your S rank or the top rank of the game. Then it's gone to a point that it's just highly ridiculous. Sure, you have the challenge missions, sure you have the boss fights, but those, in my opinion, are not hard in the slightest. They're more frustrating. More to the fact that you either can't make a jump or you can't get to the shortcut like you wanted to, or some of the challenges and the challenge stages are just really pointless, and you don't really know when this actually happened in an older Sonic game, or if this actually happened at all, and you question why is this here. Such as Vector's musical tennis game. While it does seem easy at first, however, homing attacking the musical note can provide to be troublesome, especially if you don't immediately lock onto the musical note. It's even worse to say that you actually have to be almost next to Vector to get the time enough to get the S rank. Another annoying mission I remember is the one with Rouge to bat as Classic Sonic. While she throws bombs at you, you have to get to the end of the stage. This was seriously annoying and frustrating, because most of the time she would throw the bomb straight on top of you as you were trying to run or make the next jump, and it really provided a lot of trouble, and for me. There's quite a few other challenge missions I could quote to be annoying, but there's not enough time to mention all of them. The boss fights, once you really figure them out, they're seriously simple. While you do have the boss fights, they're probably the hardest boss fight I would say is between Metal Sonic and maybe Egg Dragoon. That's kind of giving it a long shot there. Those two may be the hardest bosses of the game, and that's me going out on a limb here. Once you figure out how to beat them, they're really pushovers, and it's actually disappointing. While I do like how the game actually restyled the boss fights to tailor around either modern or classic Sonic, they actually gone to the point where they're way too easy. Well, the other gripe I had with the game is its replay value, and this really falls on the lines of the lack of innovation or the lack of anything new to the game. While Sonic Generations is supposed to bring back all the stuff that we love back from when Sonic first started out to where Sonic is now, this game brings nothing new to the table. While you can say that, oh well, you're playing as classic Sonic and modern Sonic in the same game, it really does nothing new to bring to the table. Because basically, they both control exactly the same. They both control exactly as you remember them. Sonic's being more, well, modern Sonic being more boost worthy, going off boost to get all the way to the end of the stage, having homing attacks, etc., etc. While classic Sonic was classic platforming and spin dashing all the way to the end of the stage. There was no real surprises or really any new gimmicks to actually master. While you have... and honestly, to me, that actually is a huge disappointment. I rather would have honestly seen a gimmick of switching between modern and classic Sonic, kind of like how you did on the final boss, the Time Eater, where you could switch between the two on the fly. But I would rather see it in normal stages, and you get all the way to the end like, oh, well, modern Sonic clearly can't do this section, so let's have classic Sonic run through this section. And vice versa. That honestly would have been a nice gimmick to try and master. And honestly, that is really what I truly like about the Sonic games, is that every time there is a new Sonic game, they bring something either fairly new or brand new to the table, such as Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic using a sword. That took some time to master. Sonic Unleashed, where I had to master the Werehog. Sonic Heroes, where I had to master team-based gameplay, etc., etc. To me, that brought tons of replay value to the game, and honestly, this game actually lacks it. Unless you're one of those, I can't think of the word right now. Unless you're one of those people that just loves to show off and be like, oh well, I'm the best. I'm gonna show it off by getting this almost impossible time for anyone to get, which is basically time attack ranking mode. There's really no point to the game. Even though you unlock abilities through the game so you can replay the old stages, you can't use those abilities on the challenge stages themselves unless they're automatically equipped, and you can't use them in boss fights, where I would think they would prove to be the most useful. That's honestly a huge disappointment from my standpoint, and I wish that they actually did something more. There's also the fact that by the time you unlock most of the abilities, you're practically at the end of the game, and you don't really have any purpose in going back, unless it's either for an achievement or you just want to. Probably the worst part, which I've actually heard some people mention, is the lack of boss fights for classic Sonic, while modern Sonic has every other boss fight. Modern Sonic has 4 bosses, which is Perfect Chaos, Shadow, Silver, and Egg Dragoon, while classic Sonic only has Metal Sonic and Death Egg Robot. I'm about to say the wrong name. That, while it is fine in its own right, it would be nice to see how classic Sonic or modern Sonic would handle the bosses differently, even though they changed how the boss fight operates. The next thing, I honestly think, and the last thing, I honestly think that this game is meant to tide over the Sonic fan base. Because as from what I experienced, the Sonic fan base generally hated on anything that Sonic tried to do that was brand new. And they would generally get to the point that they're being anal about everything that's new and it's not sticking to the classic roots of Sonic, such as the Werehog, or Sonic using a sword, or the team-based gameplay, or characters that aren't Sonic. It really is a disappointment to me, and I honestly fear where Sonic is going at this point. And I really hope that Sega and Sonic Team do not continue to go this route with the Sonic games. I appreciate the graphics, I appreciate the music, and I appreciate the gameplay. I just want something new to play around with when it comes to Sonic. I think, with that said, I would say that this game is worth a rental, in my opinion, because you'll run through this game, you'll complete everything, you'll get all the achievements, generally in 1 or 2 sittings. And the game only lasts, well, in terms of normal gameplay and not completion, it only lasts about 3 hours. And at best. The worst one, if you get, like, if the game, if they actually bring something new to the next game, which I hope so, I will definitely buy this one. I will definitely buy that game whenever it comes out. However, this game, it's definitely worth the rental, or it's definitely worth $20 or less. Nothing more than that, because this game is living off of hype. That does not mean that this game is bad. That does not mean that this game is horrible or unplayable. But for me, if I had the choice, I would go back to one of the older Sonic games. Particularly either Unleashed, 06, Heroes, Adventure 2. That about wraps up this Sonic Generations review from me. If I'm to give this game a score between 1 to 10, I would give this game a 7. 7 to 7.5. It can do better, and it should do better at this point. Anyway, that about wraps it up for this Sonic Generations review. I'm Brad Ree, the Gaming Mole, signing off. Thank you for watching.